Next question we're getting is, okay, great, now what equipment should I buy? So when it comes to equipment, again, we're just going to start simple and move more complicated. First, simplest thing you can do, again, is use your phone or your laptop. Don't forget that that's an option when you're in a pinch. And if you want to just step it up a tiny level, you can get a $50 webcam and attach that to your laptop, and that way you can turn it and kind of use the webcam as a separate camera from your laptop. So that is definitely an option to get you started. The next thing that you would do is mix a real camera into the situation. So whether that be a video camera or a DSLR or a cinema camera or any kind of camera that you have access to or that you're about to purchase. The big things you need to know is you need a camera that's going to have an HDMI output. That output is going to connect to your HDMI capture card. So in the camera that you're choosing, really you can use any camera that has an HDMI output, that has a microphone input so that you're able to feed sound into the camera, and a camera that has the ability to be powered from the wall, because you don't want to just run batteries for live streaming, because there's just too many things in the mix. You don't want that to be one of them where your battery dies halfway through and your whole stream crashes. So you want to be able to plug that camera directly into the wall. If you're using a video camera, most of them come, when you bought them, with some sort of wall adapter that you can plug in directly. Or if you're using like a DSLR, you can always buy third-party wall adapters, usually for like 20 bucks on Amazon. The next thing you want to think about with your camera is the ability to zoom. So typically, you're not wanting to take the camera and stick it 6 feet away from the person talking and have them talk directly into the lens. Typically, what you're wanting to do is take that camera, put it in the back of the room, and zoom in. So you're going to want either a video camera that has a decent zoom or a DSLR with a good zoom lens so that you can reach the way that you need to for that live streaming. Of course, in today's world where maybe there's no one in the room except you and the camera, you could stick the camera 6 feet away. So the next thing you want to think about is sound quality. So you're going to want to be able to feed some sound into that camera. So typically in a situation like that, you're maybe working with a soundboard, and so you can figure out how to connect your soundboard and your camera and then mix the sound on the soundboard so that your camera has a decent audio feed. And that audio feed is what's going, again, through your switch, HDMI adapter into your computer as a webcam out to your streaming software. So the next thing you want to add is an HDMI capture device. And as far as picking one, there's a lot of options. If you're spending anywhere from $75 to $200 on a HDMI capture device, it's probably going to be fine. You can look on YouTube for reviews on specific models and things, but if you're spending, at least 75 bucks, if you're spending 100 bucks, it's probably going to be fine, and it'll allow you to do what you need. What you're going to want to look out for is make sure it has the right connections that you need. So typically you're looking for an HDMI in. If you want to be able to monitor the feed, you'll want an HDMI loop out so that you can plug a screen in and so you can see what's going through all of that. And then some HDMI capture cards also have options to plug in additional audio. So if you maybe, instead of plugging your audio into your camera, you wanted to plug your audio into your capture card, that's something you can look at. But the other big thing is just, what's the computer connection on that card, and can your computer handle it? Is it USB 2, USB 3, is it USB-C? And just make sure that it's a connection that's compatible with the PC or Mac or whatever it is that you're using. Again, make sure PC or Mac compatible, especially if you're on a Mac. Not all capture devices are Mac compatible, so make sure that the device you get is compatible with the cameras and computers that you're using. So far, we've got a camera plugged into a capture device, plugged into your computer, sending out to a streaming service. So right now, we have the ability to start and stop a stream. And once the stream is going, you can operate your camera and do, and your sound, do whatever you need to, but you don't have a way to add graphics, you don't have a way to add a logo or put text on the screen or any of those things. If you need those capabilities, then you need to bring in that streaming software. The one that we're just kind of recommending right now is OBS. It's a free open source streaming software, so it's low cost. It costs nothing to get started. There is a bit of a learning curve to it, but with any streaming software, there will be a learning curve. You'll have to learn where are the buttons, how's it work. So whether you're using that software or whether you're paying for another software or using a service that comes with its own software, all of those options are available. But if you're just like, how can I get this thing done quickly on a budget, and I need the ability to add graphics, you can check out OBS. Like I said, there's a learning curve to it, so you have to have some tech savvy to get all of that working. It has to be configured, but there are guides, there's YouTube videos on how to do all of that. Again, back to the computer you're using, you need to make sure that it's got enough power. It needs to be a beefy enough computer to do the job. You can't run this on a 10-year-old laptop. So make sure that it's a reasonably recent computer, that it's got enough power to play a video stream, an HD video. It's got power to, send that out. And typically, if the computer can play video games decently, it can probably handle streaming. That's usually a good benchmark. So, for example, if you had like a $600 gaming computer, that's going to be fine. You don't need to spend $10,000 on a computer to get the streaming job done. But again, with anything in this whole world of streaming that we're talking about, that principle of you get what you pay for always applies. So if you're running everything on the cheapest, the least you can get away with, then the quality of your stream in the end is not going to be as good as it could be if you had spent $100,000 on the whole thing. So you just kind of have to evaluate your budget, evaluate your priorities, and see what's the best option for you. But you don't need to break the bank to start streaming. 2 things left. Make sure you have a solid internet connection. That is so critical. It doesn't matter if you spend $100,000 on all of your software and cameras and everything. If you have a poor internet connection, it's going to look terrible. So a solid internet connection is a must when live streaming. We highly, highly, highly recommend that you're using that plug-in Ethernet cable, not using Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is just subject to so many more problems. Ethernet just gives you a much more solid connection, and the less things that you have in the mix to go wrong, the better. When you're streaming, there are so many things that can go wrong, so many variables in the mix. You have all these adapters, all this software, all this stuff going on, your internet connection, your browser, your computer. There's just endless things that can happen. So it is complex. And so we highly recommend test, test, test. Do not just think I'm going to show up, bring all this stuff out, unhook it out of the box, and it's just going to work and we're going to have a great live stream. You have to test it and then test it and then test it again, because there are lots of problems. Every time that we run live stream, we have to do tests because there's always something that's like, oh, this didn't work. Let's do that. Okay, now this works. There's just a lot of variables in a live stream, so make sure that you're prepared to test, have time to test. Don't just think you're going to walk in and hit go and it's going to be fine. You've got to get everything figured out and get everything working properly. So testing is important in live streaming. All right, I hope that guide was helpful. I know there's a lot of information there, but just remember you need a camera, a microphone, and a streaming device. You can add a video camera of some sorts to that. And then you need an HDMI capture device to make that talk to your computer. And then if you want to add streaming software to the mix to add some graphics, you can do that. And then if you want multiple cameras, you'll need that AV switcher to kind of mix all those things together and send it out to your stream. So hope that was helpful. If you have specific questions, or if you just want someone to help you set this up because this sounds way too hard, or you just don't have the time, you can definitely contact us and we can help you set up live streaming.